Shadow of the Colossus is without a doubt one of the most amazing games of all time that provides an experience unlike no other. I've wanted to write this for the longest time, and I mean the longest. When I first started getting into writing at like 15, one of the first pieces I wrote was on Shadow of the Colossus. It was meant to be the start of a series I titled Golden Games, which would discuss games that I thought were absolute masterpieces and deserved the highest rating I could give to a game. That was nearly 5 years ago, and although I was very proud of that article back then, it was severely lacking in, well, everything. This time round, I'm going to tell you exactly why Shadow of the Colossus is a game like no other, and why it's beloved by so many people around the world. Before we get started, I need to tell you all how I came across this game. Every Friday I could rent a game from the nearby Blockbusters. I never went in with a certain game in mind, I would just choose one that looked cool. Enter Shadow of the Colossus. Giant monsters are cool, and they always will be. The idea that something like Godzilla could exist is exciting. Terrifying, but exciting. Seeing this cover on the shelves immediately struck a chord with me. I grabbed it, ran to my dad, and asked for the game. I got home, popped the disc in, and that is when I first had my mind blown playing a video game. The thing is, it didn't last very long because I couldn't get past the first Colossus. I know you're thinking, how stupid could I be, but I was like 8.
I haven't got a brain.
I remember just going up to the Colossus and attacking it with my sword. I had no clue what I was doing. However, fast forward to when I was 16 and I played the remaster on PS3. And to be honest, I'm glad that I experienced the game at that age because at that point I could fully appreciate it. The way this game opens straight away sets the tone and atmosphere going forward. Not only that, but it quickly sets up the premise. You play as Wanda, a young man who aims to resurrect Mono, a young woman who was sacrificed for having a cursed fate. He is met by the entity known only as Dormin, who states that you will have to destroy these idols on the wall by slaying 16 colossi. The premise is simple. There is no overload of exposition about the world or your character. You have your tools, a sword that will guide you to each colossus and enable you to kill them, and your bow and arrow. You also have your loyal steed, Agro, who not only makes traversal way quicker, but will be pivotal to some of the colossi battles. The game wastes no time in sending you on this adventure because it's going to tell its story primarily through gameplay and music. Now, the game takes place in the Forbidden Land, and this has always been one of the most amazing environments in a game for me. It's shrouded in mystery and there's this eeriness in the air as you roam the lands. The vast expanse of open plains, large deserts and thick forests are gorgeous, and being thrown into this straight away is breathtaking to say the least. The ancient ruins that are spread out across the environment suggest that a civilization once claimed these lands, and that's always intrigued me. What happened here? Who lived in these lands? Why aren't they here anymore? The quietness is almost scary, and when this game came out, there was really nothing like it. Open world games wanted to provide you with a playground that you could have fun in for hours and hours, causing all sorts of chaos. It was impressive to have so much to do. With Shadow of the Colossus though, there's nothing. Just you and your horse. However, that silence and emptiness suddenly disappear when you approach a Colossus. Fumito Ueda, the game's director, once said in an interview that the journey to track a Colossus is far more entertaining than simply having boss characters come out one after another. He goes on to say that they wanted to incorporate the journey as part of the game, and they nailed that. It really does contribute to the whole experience. As the famous quote goes, it's not the destination, it's the journey. Those quiet moments leading up to a Colossus are some of the best because you don't know exactly what you're going towards. You experience new areas of the Forbidden Lands and see new structures and biomes. If you were to take this journey away, you would truly lose a lot of the magic. The first time you see Valus, the first Colossus, it is mind-blowing. Watching this strange monster step into view and hearing the thunderous sound of his footsteps and deep groans were astonishing. Then as you begin the battle, the music kicks in. Man, the music. That beautiful orchestral score that I still listen to this day, and I'm sure many still do. It is not an exaggeration when I say that without the music, this game would not nearly be as impactful. As I said, the game chooses to tell its story through gameplay and music. You see, the music elevates every scene, every moment, every action in this game. The moment this game opens and that magical score kicks in, it sets the atmosphere straight away. The Opened Way is without a doubt one of the best pieces of music in gaming, period. I get goosebumps every time I hear it. You can listen to this and visualize what sort of battle is happening on screen. An epic and uphill battle that seems impossible to win, but you must. You have to save the girl. It's not just the open way that feels like this though. Each battle is accompanied by music that makes it feel so grand. Then after that amazing battle, you plunge your sword into the Colossus for the kill, and the end of battle starts to play. The Colossus falls slowly and almost gracefully to the ground. You cannot help but feel some remorse and guilt for the creature that was docile until you attacked. But you're on this noble and heroic quest to bring back the girl, right? This sort of story we've seen in video games countless times. By this point it's ingrained in our heads. We do not question what we are doing because in the end we're trying to save someone. The whole beat the boss, save the princess is a staple in video games. Yet as you keep slaying the Colossi, things start feeling less heroic and instead becomes more sad. And you see, the music reflects this as gradually throughout the game it becomes more and more somber. Not only that, but every time you kill a Colossi, these black tendrils shoot out of the now dead behemoth and go into you. It's not a pretty sight, and after seeing Wanda's face look sicker and sicker after each battle, it's apparent that this is taking a toll. Phalanx is the 13th Colossus and might just be my favourite for two reasons. The spectacle that battle is, and because of what that battle represents. You see, Phalanx is the only Colossus who never attacks you. Not once. It was at this point in which I realised that I'm the monster here. Phalanx is perhaps the most majestic Colossus in the game. Watching it soar through the skies and cover the screen was awe-inspiring, to say the least. When you bring it down and it slams to the ground, it's hard not to question your actions. This magnificent creature was killed for your own selfish desires. It was at this point I realised the Colossi belong here. You don't. You're an intruder in their home, coming in and disturbing them, attacking them, killing them. The final Colossus, Malice, always stood out to me. The journey to him, the music, how he's fixed into this one position. He shoots these blasts at you constantly to keep you away from him as if he knows you've come to kill him. The music is as somber as it's ever been. You've lost your horse, you've lost yourself. You can turn back, but you've come too far. This is the only thing between you and bringing back the person that you care about. By the end of the game, you realise you are not the hero. You stole this sword, you entered the Forbidden Land and slaughtered the Colossi. The Colossi who remained peaceful until you intruded. Now what Shadow does that is utterly brilliant is take the traditional hero narrative and flips it on its head. What begins as a quest to save the girl ends in a bittersweet and tragic ending, as it's revealed that each Colossi you killed contained a piece of Dormin, and each time you killed one, you were restoring his soul. You were tricked and used so that Dormin could use your body to come back. Your selfish quest is going to kill everyone. You then see yourself transform into a Colossus, albeit a much more monstrous and terrifying one compared to the ones you've encountered, and you play this. And that's the thing, every important moment in this game, you are in control. The last time you are in control is when the shrine is being sealed and you're being dragged away so that Dormin can't come back. You're being dragged away from Mono, away from the very reason you came here. You had done everything to bring her back and now you could not be further away. You never reached your destination. A lot of games have attempted to strike the same chord as Shadow of the Colossus, but have failed. Let's look at The Last of Us Part 2. The Last of Us Part 2 wants you to feel bad about the people you kill. Hell, it tries to force you to feel bad. Nakey Jakey did a fantastic video that perfectly encapsulates how I feel about this game and why I don't think it really works. I highly recommend you check it out. He essentially highlights how the issues and themes raised throughout the story and narrative are not carried through in its gameplay. This is known as ludonarrative dissonance, and this is the sort of dissonance that is common in most games, and the reason it can become a problem is that it creates a disconnect between us as players and the characters in the story. You see, Part 2 aims to tell this deep and complex story about hate and the cycle of violence. It shows us two perspectives of a conflict to empathise with all the characters and see the parallels between them. Yet, the game is so manipulative as it tries to constantly make Ellie look like this evil and horrific person, whilst Abby is painted in a much more heroic light. The game asks you to upgrade weapons and level up skills that will help us kill people more effectively and efficiently, but wants us to feel bad about it at the same time. The ending to Part 2 falls apart because Ellie spends so much of this game killing and killing without remorse or guilt, doing it so effortlessly, but when she reaches the person who killed her father figure, she decides no. The gameplay is disconnected from everything else happening in this game. But this video isn't about The Last of Us Part 2. It's about the game that nails what The Last of Us Part 2 is trying to do. Now, for the record, I don't think every game suffers from ludonarrative dissonance. It's common due to the nature of a game. You want your game to still be fun and engaging, so there still has to be mechanics that make it that way. The problem comes from when the game's focus is on delivering a complex and emotional story. Shadow of the Colossus manages to use its gameplay to tell a powerful story where the violent motivation of the player and protagonist is a central part of the story. You as the player experience everything Wanda experiences because for 90% of the time, you are in control. The game does not hit you over the head with the killing is bad concept. It's so eloquent in its delivery and it's all done through gameplay and of course the music. Now, violence in video games has always existed, so much so that whenever there is a conversation about video games in mainstream media, it's about violence. I've never had a problem with that, and I never will. bring on more of the gore and dismemberment. I mean, it makes for a fun and entertaining game. However, games rarely touch upon the consequences and actual weight of taking someone or something's life. For me, Shadow was the first game that made me question my actions, and when this game released back in 2005, I can assume it was pretty much unheard of. I think it's genius how Shadow of the Colossus asks you to take down these colossi, and for most of the game, you never question it, because, well, it's a game, and this is what games are. Scaling the enormous colossi whilst that music swells up is so epic, and despite the somber music, you can't help but feel somewhat accomplished after finally defeating one. As the game progresses though, it subtly confronts you with the reality of what you are doing. The thing is, even though I felt bad, I understood why my character was doing this, and I too felt like we had come too far to stop now. Whenever people ask me what my favourite game is of all time, I tell them that I have 3 and that I can't decide which one I love more. Those 3 games are God of War, The Witcher 3, and Shadow of the Colossus. After writing this and replaying the game, I realised that this is my favourite game of all time. This masterpiece of a game that excels in nearly every department. A game that still hits me emotionally every time I play it and delivers such a powerful narrative experience in such a simple way. Yuda said that creating this uniqueness was one of the points that stood out in this particular game, and I think they nailed that. I think that anyone who's played this game will agree that this is one of the most unique games ever made.